All right, so I let the music run a little long this week because we need it. We need some. It's a nice, happy, cheery song. We need a nice, happy cheeriness after what happened last night. Um, of course, with our New York Knicks. So, welcome everybody to another episode of All Nicked Up. This is my first show in a couple of weeks. I was in Japan, so I'm back. Let me bring the other guys in real quick. So, Joe and Ty, you guys are here. You were off last week, but did a show the week before. My first week out. So nice to see you guys again.
It's great to have you back.
Yes. We could talk about Japan another time because we have a lot to talk about regarding the Knicks. So you guys don't know about Japan, reach out.
But you're not getting out of that.
Don't talk about I definitely want to share. I took a lot of pictures. I'm going to create a folder in Google, in my Google Photos. I'll send you guys a link to it. You guys can look at the pictures and then ask me questions after the fact. But I have a lot to say about last night. I mean, but what I'll say is, and I'll start with this: what happened last night, how that game played out, was really was just a microcosm of everything we've seen from the team this year. Mm-hmm. There was some good early on. And then as has happened I feel like every game this season, halftime comes, third quarter, they're a terrible third quarter team. The things we've seen all year seem to just come back again. I've heard this thrown around too, and we've been hard on the coach, and I have a lot about things I want to say about him too. But they say the third quarter is the coach's quarter, whether it's football, whether it's hockey in third period, it's the third period. Well, every period in hockey, really. Whether it's football, though, or basketball, they say the third quarter is the coach's quarter because that's you make adjustments at halftime. So the coach, that's where he makes his money, so to speak. And all year, we have seen the Knicks kind of lose their way in the third quarter. I saw some stat that they've been outscored by teams something by like on an average of like I think 8 or 9 points in the third quarter this year. So all of this stuff that happened last night, everything that happened watching that game, I mean, it was no surprise that once again, end of the game, the Knicks have, they're in a tight game, have to execute. A lot happened in the fourth quarter, especially late. We could talk about the whole Brunson Hart being on the sidelines while the Knicks were trying to come back with like 2.5, 3 minutes left. But it should never have gotten there. Like it should never have gotten to that point. That's my biggest problem with what happened last night. And it's just something we see all the time. How could you not be prepared to play a closeout game 5 at home with a chance to advance? And that's the effort you give? Brunson and Towns were horrible. Both of them were just horrible last night. Totally did not expect that from both of them. Specifically Brunson, who, clutch in a game, yeah, but that you needed to be clutch in the series. And last night was not his best performance. I'm not going to get on him. He's been fantastic since he got here. He's allowed to have a night off, even though it was a game 5 and a closeout. But my feelings about this series before we went to Japan, the last show I was on, I said this. I said I thought Detroit would win. I wasn't feeling that way before last night, but now I kind of am feeling that way again. And the reason I feel this way is because I can make a case that Detroit has played for the large part of the series has been the better team. The Knicks have had better flashes and better spurts, especially game 1, 21-0 run. Like that was crazy. I actually got to watch that in Japan. I was eating breakfast. I had my I got a VPN in the United States so I could watch the game. So I got to watch that game there. But yeah, it's just we keep seeing the same things over and over again. And I could play back all of our shows from this year and all the problems that we have talked about just kind of showed up yesterday. So that was my take on the game as a whole. We'll get into more things, obviously, as the show goes on. But what about you guys? What was your feeling going into last night, and then with the outcome, how the game played out? Your turn. You guys take the floor. Whichever one, I don't care.
Go on, Big Cuff. It's all you.
Okay. So I called the Knicks in 6 in the beginning of the series, and I still see that happening. Mm-hmm. Now, Eric, I agree completely with you. We've seen the movie of their shortcomings. We've seen this movie before. We've talked about this movie before. We've each done PhD theses on the shortcomings of this particular team, and we've dissected it to death. And I found myself getting all pissed off after the last game, and I just said, screw it. I'm going to enjoy this series because it's been kind of what I've been complaining about the league for forever. It's been physical. The refs have swallowed the whistle. The last 3 games have been closed by 6 points. I've gone so long without enjoying basketball in the postseason. I've sat through so many crappy seasons that I've checked my brain at the door. I've checked my criticisms at the door, and I am going to enjoy this because it has been edge of your seat basketball. I still do believe that they are going to take this in 6 games. There's plenty of things to go about. We are not playing at the optimum of what this team is capable of, I believe. I still believe in the talent base of this team. But we all know there's problems, man. We all know that there's problems. To piggyback on something that you said, Eric, and we've talked about on this show, I saw an article recently where Thibodeau was rated as one of the worst coaches in basketball by NBA players. And his players kind of came to his defense, but also it was also an indictment of his coaching simultaneously. This whole, he lets us he lets us play out there, doesn't get too involved, which is not really what you want from a coach. Again, I'm still calling 6 games. I still think they're the better team. I knew they were going to be a tough matchup for us. I was not expecting an easy series. We have failed in the third quarter consistently through this. However, for the most part, we have been the better performing team in the fourth quarter, which is really when it matters. So I'm still going to kind of stick with my guns. I'm thinking 6 games, and I'm just kind of trying to dust off the hyper analytical thing that I approach basketball with, especially being a member of this team on this show. I'm just going to check my brain and try to enjoy it because it has been 90s style basketball and I have enjoyed it. And it has been down to the wire. All these games have been close. Sometimes it's thrilling. Some people may be bored with this series. I'm not bored with the games, not at all, personally. So that's my take.
Yeah, when I look at this, I mean, I'm going to be the voice of reason, which might be one of the scariest things in this group. Especially that's my role because we know I go all in or all out, one of the two. Let's give a little basketball perspective. I'm just going to go through just about basketball in general. The likelihood of you actually beating a team 3 times in a row in the playoffs, probably not going to happen. So when we look at the Knicks, and we know how inconsistent the Knicks have been. We've highlighted that all year long about the inconsistencies, the up and downs, the kind of things that give you bubble guts watching them, a little medicine from the doctor you need. You need a little therapy couch after, monitoring this team and being a fan. You're signing up for, basically the psycho pension the minute you become a Knicks fan. It is what it is. However, I like to look at it from that perspective, like in basketball sense, it made sense that the Knicks lost last night because that's 3 games in a row. You're more than likely not beating a team 3 times in a row unless you're an elite team. When you think about sweeps in any playoff situation, that means that the team that you're competing against is just that much more inferior. And nobody believes that the Detroit Pistons are an inferior team. We just think that they're a young, inexperienced team.
Right.
So, the grittiness that they play with, if you don't come with your lunch pail and your bulletproof vest, especially if you're in Detroit, you're probably going to get shot and robbed. That's literally how they play basketball with that toughness. And what's the story been on the Knicks that we've all known? We question their toughness, their mental edge and their toughness and their tenacity when against young teams. This has been a theme all year long, regular season. In fact, I was overly surprised that they're up 3-1 because I thought this game would be a lot closer. I thought this would be a series that would go 6 or 7 games, and then, you live with the outcome. But, the Knicks have shown such great resolve in the fourth quarter, pulling out the games. They have the best closer in basketball, arguably. I don't know if you got one better. You might want to say Tatum, maybe Jokic. We think about in the clutch, those last few minutes, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, we're talking about MVP level players. Jalen Brunson is one of those dudes. In fact, he leads, I think, the league in fourth quarter scoring. He's legit. He's a legit stud. But the question you have to ask also is, how did he get there? And what I mean by that, I'm not talking about his ability. Eric mentioned the one thing about the third quarter of woes. He said that's the coaching quarter. Would Jalen Brunson actually be a clutch player or win the clutch player candidate if there was actually no need to be clutch? That's a legitimate question when thinking about the Knicks, because you're looking at a third quarter, and if you're saying that's coaching time, then you go back to every game within this series or any series we've seen from the Knicks. And what has happened is the thing that we keep bringing up and beating to death is that without the proper adjustments, this team is always going to be in some sort of dogfight or letdown. Even when having a 20-point lead, I don't think Eric had a chance to maybe see that one game where it was a bunch of the Knicks were up heavy in Detroit. You're like, they're up, they railed off points, they're up 15 points, and then all of a sudden, bam, that game is almost tied. You're like, well, what the hell happened to the score? Why didn't nobody call the timeout? Nobody said, let's take a break. Nobody said, let's break the momentum. No. So they go back into the fourth quarter, and they're back and forth in a dogfight. Eventually, the Knicks pull away and win the game. My point in the matter is that this is what the Knicks are. They're going to be in a dogfight because there's no adjustments. There's not enough adjustments when you get into the third quarter to the fourth quarter. And if anything, much like Eric said earlier, the culmination of that happened last night. Everything about the Knicks that you wanted to know about their season was last night. You're watching somewhat of the great success they could have and potential, and then you're watching the failures of what I'm going to call, which we've all said, which Joe asked me earlier in the private chat. He's like, why did I put up Lou Albano? So I'm going to start early with why my name is that way. For all you youngins that don't know
Captain Lou.
About real wrestling back in the day, before they had the tribal chief and all that other. Wrestlers had managers, they were the agitators to the crowd, they were the flamboyant ones, because there wasn't no microphones really for the actual wrestlers. They weren't very articulate unless you're like Ric Flair or somebody like that. The fervor came from having a manager. And Captain Lou Albano, also noted for being in Cyndi Lauper's video, one of the first participants in WrestleMania. He wore rubber bands on his face. I know that sounds weird, but he had a beard, rubber bands, et cetera, slovenly dude. But he was always very articulate in a way of like kind of cutting somebody in half. And when I think about the one thing where I said I have Lou Albano's knack, it's because of a line I've always used from him and I borrowed for so many years. When describing someone, his thing was he said that someone's brain was so small that if you put it inside of a net, the net would fly backwards. And I always thought that was one of the most brilliant lines. And it talks about being small-mindedness and the small-minded people. And we got to equate that to Tom Thibodeau. He's got that gnat brain. That brain is very small when it comes to being flexible, when it comes to the team concept. This dude is out here not doing any coaching whatsoever. Brunson has highlighted that in one of his post-game interviews. They asked him, how does Tom contribute to the winning in the locker room and for this team? And in a sort of way of highlighting and saying nice things about Tom, he actually threw him more under the bus. He's like, well, he gets us prepared.
Yeah.
What the hell is that supposed to mean? He's get you prepared. It was like he like tapes your ankles. What kind of preparation goes into what he brings to the table as a coach that allows you to win? Nobody wants to hear about he gets you prepared. You should be prepped and ready to play anyway. But what is the strategy implemented by Tom Thibodeau? What is he giving the team in these situations that need adjustments, especially when it comes playoff time? These are the war days. We're looking for a guy to come in and say, maybe Brunson don't got it tonight. Maybe Mikal Bridges definitely didn't have it last night. But who had it was Campaign. Gave great minutes. Mitchell Robinson, tremendous minutes. You saw Deuce McBride, gave good minutes. What is preventing him from pulling the plug on some of these guys when he's seeing that this is a very important game and you may need to pivot a little bit? Until his brain grows, this team is going to be exactly where we have it at. You're going to be in a dogfight most nights. Some nights they might blow you out because they're just super talented and they have potential to be a championship team. And then there's other nights they look like they're the Charlotte Hornets. And that's what you're dealing with. Last night was a Charlotte Hornets moment. All the fancy passes in the lane, they should have pulled anyone who was trying to shovel a pass to Mitchell Robinson. Why was that a continuous move when this guy has been known to be the candy bar butterfingers most of his career? He cannot catch any pass and finish. If it's not a lob, you damn sure don't shovel it to him. So we just saw a bunch of inconsistencies. It's just been the complete story of the New York Knicks for the 2025 season.
Yeah. I just changed the banner to the Thibodeau motto because that's exactly what he says all the time. And I mean, it's weird that this team that started out the season so well on offense is now struggling on offense. And I understand that Towns, yes, I don't care what anyone says, he's playing banged up. He started the season fantastic. He is not the same. He has a wrap on his back now. All different kinds of things. Obviously, the players
Brunson's
are
banged up.
Yep, Brunson's banged up. Same thing. You can tell, like, a lot of times when you have an ankle injury, time off is bad for you if you're playing through it because it gets time, to kind of get stiff, and you got to make sure you're working out. And these guys have the top of the top when it comes to physio and all that, so they're getting prepped that way. It's just when your coach's main philosophy is this, and we've talked about this in the past, when your coach's main offensive philosophy is the game tells you what you need to do. Now that's telling me that, like I said before, well, what do we need you for then? We don't. If the game is going to tell us what to do, go home. I don't need you. You're essentially telling me to play pickup basketball. That's what you're telling me to do. You're telling an NBA team going against NBA defense to play pickup basketball. That's what you're telling us to do. So all of the problems with this team, and we've talked about it, we've talked about the talent that they have. I've never been as high on the talent that we have, but we do have a talented roster. We definitely, if you look at both teams right now, after Brunson and Cunningham, the Knicks probably have the three next most talented players on both of these teams.
We have
at least the way it's right. Yeah. At least the way they're currently constituted. They don't have Ivy right now. He'd probably be in the mix if they had him, but he's out. So, I mean, this really, like you guys are saying, when you're up, you go up 3-1. Like last night should have been done and dusted. That should have been it. The game, they should have come out super strong, pushed the pace, pushed this team down, got up big, and just closed it out at home. It's amazing to me. The Pistons and the Knicks have played 4 times at MSG this year. Detroit's won 3 of those games. That's why I'm saying the Knicks, they better win tomorrow night. They better win it in Detroit because Detroit has a ton of confidence playing at the Garden now. And Game 7, the pressure is going to be all on the Knicks. They're the home team. Mm-hmm. They're the team that's favored to win. So you're coming back to New York. I think it's a recipe for disaster if they don't win tomorrow. This happened last year too. Don't forget, first round, the Knicks were up 3-1 against Philly and they lost Game 5. They wound up winning in Philadelphia in Game 6. But the same thing happened last year. Mm-hmm. So teams don't fear playing this team at MSG. We've seen it all. We've seen it with the Knicks since forever now, since the 90s teams. The 90s teams took care of their business at home and they were a really good home team. Mm-hmm. But since that era and this new era with Thibodeau, to me, there's no home court advantage. Teams like playing in the Garden. These players know You can make your name at the Garden. You make your career at the Garden. So I feel like they all love coming to play here. Cunningham said it. I love to play here. The crowd's always into it. Yeah, that's what I mean. So the Knicks really need to take care of business tomorrow night in Detroit. Or I honestly, and I said this, if it's crazy to say that you would think you need to win on the road and coming home is not going to be good for them. But they lost Game 7 last year against Indiana too. So, I mean, what at home? So, I mean, I don't know why any of us should feel confident with the way things are. Last night was the night to do it. That was the night to get it done. Put them away in 5, which is what a lot of people said they would do. Many people who picked the Knicks said they were going to win in 5. You guys said 6, I know. But people in the media said if the Knicks win, it's probably going to be in 5.
No, I said they might lose it. I didn't say 6.
I think me and John both said 6.
Yeah, let's keep it moving. I was very thrilled to see that they were up 3-1.
Right. Yes.
And I also felt like I had put a toaster oven inside of the tub with water because I was shocked as hell that they're actually leading this series because I thought it would be extremely close and be a little bit of a nail biter, which mostly it has been. Every game has been like a nail biter down to the wire. It's just, I personally, as much as I love this, I wear Knick gear all the time. My hat's always going to be Knicks or either Yankees, but majority of my gear is the Knicks. I love my team. However, this is probably the one year for me where I just don't trust their mentality.
Yeah.
There's a mentality issue and the inconsistency rolling into the season from the regular season until now. They backed their way into the playoffs. I know they have a winning record, and that can be a little bit of a fool's goal because when you talk about the New York Knicks and you go, oh, look at their record, you're like, they're third in the East. Yeah, but the third that they're in is so distant from the top echelon. It's like it's a different tier of being in third place as opposed to the teams that sit ahead of them. Like there's a huge gap between Cleveland and Boston when it comes to the New York Knicks.
And everyone else. Yeah.
So the Knicks are like sitting good because they've just been consistent and they're basically on talent. The Knicks are a very talented team. Yeah. They can roll into this league and kind of sleepwalk into 50 wins nowadays because it's not competitive. You have maybe 12 teams in the whole league that are really good. And the rest of those dudes are garbage and they're kind of like tanking. That's really what it is. They're just benefiting from the TV deal. So the Knicks on a talent basis are going to beat about 85% of the NBA just by showing up. But when you're talking about that extra level that they need to get to, I believe they have the talent to get there. I don't know if they got the mentality or the coaching to get them there because right now we've seen you can outcoach Tom Thibodeau in the playoffs. That's not the hardest thing for a coach with a plan because he doesn't have a damn plan. He has no plan whatsoever. I don't care what people want to lie to themselves about. I have yet to see an out-of-bounds executed plan that has worked. I've seen no adjustments in game that I've seen work. When we come out of timeouts, I never feel great about an out-of-timeout call. I've not seen anything but like, oh, God, he drew up that play really good. It's just been a nightmare to watch this season because of knowing how great they can be and knowing that there's a ceiling on it. There's a legit ceiling on a team that should have no ceiling. There's a legit ceiling because the coach caps you out to a point where you're like, man, last night's game, you think that they couldn't have maybe pulled somebody else or saw when they had momentum with those guys on the bench and just kept it going and trying to give some rest. Brunson clearly wasn't 100%. He was injured. He shouldn't even probably played in Detroit. He just is one tough bastard. So when you see him wavering out there in the first quarter, second quarter, you might want to use a veteran like Campaign a little bit more because he's capable of going in and not be shell-shocked.
You know something? I'm feeling a lot of the things that you guys are both saying right now, and it's about confidence with the team right now. And I talked at the beginning of this show about having to talk myself into rooting for and enjoying the team right now. And the reason is that I don't have the confidence that I've had in previous seasons. And yes, it is the coaching.
Yep.
Again, Eric, you said something right now that I was thinking of today. That they're essentially playing pickup basketball on offense.
Yeah.
That is exactly something that I was thinking today, and I think it's incredibly true. And when you hear the comments when they're complimenting the coach, like I mentioned before, it's oh yeah, he lets us do what we want to do. Look, there's another reason that I'm not confident in this team. It's not Knicks basketball, and I'm going to say that again. It's not Knicks basketball. Knicks basketball is defense and offensive rebounding. That's the magic of Knicks basketball. I'm sorry, it is. We became a better offensive team that is weaker defensively. And I think the defensive strength of previous teams and the offensive reboundings masked a lot of what was not a solid, concise, thought out offensive philosophy. Because offensive rebounding will cover up a lot of that. You've heard last year about all of the offensive efficiency that we had and blah, 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 and all that statistical crap. It was offensive rebounding, and we don't have that anymore. So we have a more talented offensive team right now that can't lean back on that. And it's street ball. It's street ball with some really good scorers and mediocre defense. I mean, it's gotten better since Mitch has returned. Obviously, we saw how important his presence was last night. But I'm feeling what you guys are saying because I'm not as fired up about this team going into the playoffs. Honestly, I'm hoping for a good round one. I think they're going to win round one. I think they're going to get mopped up in the second round if they play Boston, and they will play Boston. We've lost something along the way in this team evolution. We lost something about how the Knicks play basketball, and I think it's really hurt us. And I feel it when I see them play.
I'm going to push back on that because I feel like your identity is basically what your talent dictates it to be, right? When you have a more defensive talent, when your best player is a defensive player or a great defensive player. For example, Patrick Ewing was a great defensive player. So when Pat Riley came in and took over the Knicks, he said, we need to build around what he does best. And that's what they did. Pat Riley, Showtime Pat Riley, right?
Player. But our best player last year was an offensive player. But we were also a solid defensive team.
Yes, but Mitch was also healthy more last year than he was this year. And I think, and we said it last year. Like last year, he was in the running for Defensive Player of the Year. He is the key to what they do defensively. He is so important to them defensively. And that's why we were saying, even when he was coming back, like you saw it. The first few minutes he had, he is so important to this team defensively. And then you have OG on the perimeter. We kind of were sold a little bit of fool's gold, I think, with Bridges because he's not the same defensive player he was. I have a huge problem with him right now, but that's another topic for another time.
That could be an entire show.
Yeah, that could be an entire show with him. Don't even get me started. But I feel like you have to play. You have to. A great coach does what Riley did. You take your bet, what your team does well, what your talent dictates, and you develop a scheme around that. That's what you do. This team is an offensive team now. They are not a defensive team. Your two best players are scorers. Brunson and Towns are scorers. So you build a team around that, and then you fill in the gaps the other way. And you have a head coach who bucks against that, who fights against that. He understands that his best players are offensive, but he doesn't know what to do with them. So you have this. That's why I keep saying it's not that I don't think Thibodeau's a good coach. He's a good coach.
He is.
And he's done a lot of good things for this team. He's rebuilt a culture. The Knicks expect to win now. We expect them to win now. We don't. That's why we're having these conversations about where they're at. But he has a ceiling, and he doesn't. He can adjust. He either can or he won't adjust to what he has around him. And we see it in game 2. Once, like I said, halftime, the third quarter is the coach's quarter. That's when you make your adjustments and the players execute what they are. But the Knicks are always bad in the third quarter, so he's clearly not making adjustments because they just keep whatever good they did in the first half goes away in 12 minutes. So it comes down when in the playoffs, it always comes down to your star players playing well and your coach is making adjustments because you're playing the same team 4 or 7 up to 7 times, right? So you're not getting different personnel. You don't have to game plan for different guys. You know what you have to do. It's just about adjusting within the series, and he's terrible at it. He's just not good at it. And that's why, like John says in our chat, he's the guy before the guy. And that's where I'm at with him. Like, he's the guy who sets it up, but you need to bring someone in. They need a Mariano Rivera with this squad to come in and close the deal and get them over the hump. And I was listening to Sports Talk Radio today. I was listening to Alan Hahn's show, and he's basically saying, look, if you're expecting a coaching change, no matter what happens, it's not happening. Like, from what he knows, he says it's essentially not happening. So even if they lose, I'm like, okay, I'm going to have to be on this roller coaster again next year. Like, I want a different amusement park. like I'm done with Great Adventure. I want to go to like Six Flags Over Georgia or something like that. I need something new.
Go back to the 90s and do Action Park.
Yeah. Oh, that would be perfect.
I think the thing was, and I'm going to agree with Alan because of one person, and that's Jalen Brunson. He is on this team. He is the face of the franchise. He's their MVP of the Knicks. And as a fan of his and a fan of the Knicks, I think it's kind of hard not to side with whatever Jalen Brunson asks. And he wants Tom Thibodeau as the coach. Because he defends him. And I'm not being funny. You ever babysit kids? They'll like you. You'll become their favorite uncle if you give them everything. Tom Thibodeau's not coaching. He's letting you do what the hell you want to do. So is Jalen Brunson, is it not against his best interest to say, get this guy out of here? He gets to do what the hell he wants, and then his dad's on the bench. So it's like Jalen Brunson, we're in the Jalen Brunson era. This is almost a little bit like LeBron era. You're kind of a little bit a prisoner to the player that you have as your best player. And I don't think Jalen's an ass or a bad person. He's taking a discount. He's given, the wink and the point to the Knicks and say, hey, this is who I want to retire. I want to retire here. Make me comfortable and keep the guys I love. Can't argue with it. Best player in the Knicks since Patrick Ewing. I don't think it's even close. He might be even approaching past Pat at some point. If he can make it to a finals, now you're all of a sudden decorating him a little bit different. So you got to kiss the ring with this guy, and Tom Thibodeau's going to be probably the coach. Now, the thing for me is that I'm going to push a little bit back on what Joe said also. I don't know. You're right. New York Knicks basketball in the past has been about the grit and grind. I think it's so representative of the season of the city in itself. And who couldn't love that about him? Last year's team was reflective of that. And the reason why last year's team is similar to why those teams we loved so much were. They weren't as talented. They relied a lot on their moxie and their grit, their grind. And
I think they would have mopped the floor with Detroit.
Oh, yeah, they probably would have. I don't even disagree. They mopped the floor with Philly, and I think Philly's way better than Detroit was. So when I look at that team, though, when we talk about offensive rebound, I always tell people, that gets so highlighted. It's like, oh, we're an offensive. We're great at that. Well, what else does that mean? That means you're great at missing shots. That's what the hell it means. You have a stagnant fit. So you need someone to go rebound the damn basketball. That is eliminated now because Karl-Anthony Towns can go for 35, 40. Brunson comes in, go 35, 40. OG said, hey, throw my name in my hat. Because you know what? Now I'm an offensive player. I can get 18, 19. These guys don't have a problem putting it in the bucket. So now it becomes about team structure and philosophy. Because now what we're looking at is that the Hartenstein, albeit I wish he was still here. He was definitely, to me, I think he's the thing that's missing from the Knicks right now. That grittiness about what he brought, that tenacity. But that's more reflective on what the coach is. And I think that's, if there's one huge issue with the Knicks, is that they've been so centric on what the coach wants instead of building a team that can win. Because when you look at the identity of the Knicks and why it's so up in the air and a little schizo, is because you're fighting two animals. You're saying, I want to please the coach and I want to win. And I don't think you can do both. I think you have to win and let the coach be a part of it. if he either wants to be part of it or not. But he has way too much say. He has way too much cachet with the front office because he needs to be told that, you know what, you've done it this way for a very long time, and we get it. But we got Karl-Anthony Towns, who may be the I don't know. I mean, is he maybe not the best scorer in the game? Probably. I mean, you'd be hard pressed to say he's not. You have a juggernaut offensive talent who's a mega talent on offense. You've got the best closer in the game on the same team. And you mean to tell me you have a hard time breaking 100 points? You can't break 100 points. We look like a 90s team. That score is a 90s team. I don't care how great Detroit is. When you got those mega players, I mean, think about it. Jordan averaged that, and meanwhile Pippen was like averaging what, 12? You know, he wasn't like scoring 40 points himself in any playoff series. It was Jordan doing 35 and Pippen probably doing his 18, 19. Why I bring that up is the most prolific scorer and greatest talent, and arguably the GOAT for most people, is Michael Jordan. And he was able to score 35 to 40 points of a 90-point ending score. You have two guys on the Knicks that can match what Michael was throwing up, and a third guy and a fourth guy that could possibly give you 20-plus points. And the Knicks have a score of 90?
Yeah.
That's,
I mean, yeah, and I hate to it's going to sound like I'm ridiculing or dogging him, but Brunson's a big problem with that. Like, that's one of the problems with him as their star player. Because, and I'm not saying he's fantastic. Don't anyone say I dislike him, but the way he plays basketball requires him. He's a offense, like he's a scorer. He's a scoring point guard. So he is always his first in his mind. It's always, I need to get to my spot. I need to take this shot. I need to do that. He's not thinking like a point guard who says, okay, I need to get everyone going. I need to get everyone involved. And we saw a little bit of it earlier in the year when the Knicks were scoring lots of points, and they weren't. And then the defense wasn't good. So everyone's like, what's wrong with the defense? But the Knicks were scoring like 120, 125. They were scoring a lot of points earlier in the season when Brunson was being more of a point guard, when he was setting up Towns, when he was looking to create for his teammates. And now in the playoffs, I think he's saying to himself, okay, this is what I need to do for us to win. And I think he kind of needs to go kind of find like a happy medium between both somehow. He needs to find a way where he can incorporate the playmaking side and, getting the...
He looks like Randall sometimes with the dribbling, and how that stagnates an offense. And they've called it out time and time again. Clyde's called it out time and time again. There's no ball movement.
Yeah.
It's what we got on Randall for. And I love the guy too, but it doesn't put him above criticism.
No. He needs to be heavily criticized for that because he's a high IQ player. The problem is, and it's the easiest solution, which has worked. I'm not saying that this particular guy
take him off the ball,
make it work, but it did work prior, and that was with Dante DiVincenzo. You have to have another creator on the floor with Brunson to relieve him of having to bring the ball up and orchestrate. Campaign is who I was going to bring up. We've seen moments where they're paired in the backcourt, and it has worked because it takes the ball clearly out of Brunson's hand to have all the responsibility of orchestrating an offense and figuring out when he has to score. If you move him a little bit off the ball more, Josh can't do it. That's not he's talented enough to come in and run point forward in a fast pace up and down, but not in a half court execution.
Not in a half court.
If you were to bring in another guard who can create and off the bounce or whatever and create a little bit of more action off the ball where you have to now collapse, you would leave Brunson a little bit more open to knock down open shots. Him and Dante work very good. The problem is that when you look at a guy like, and bring him a little bit in a sore spot for Eric, but Mikal Bridges, we were expecting a little bit more shot creation out of Mikal Bridges coming into the season. We're noticing that he dribbles like I do, and then that's not good. My left might be better than Mikal's because he does a couple dribbles and he's giving up the ball He's not
lost right now.
He's not. He's. You know when you know he was lost? When he said he needed them to cuss him out. Campaign has to cuss him out to get him going. I'm like, dude, don't worry. The fans in New York will cuss you out. Don't worry. They will cuss you.
He's a fourth option in that offense, and he doesn't know what to do with that.
But
he doesn't know what to do with being a fourth option.
But listen, where does that fall on? The coach has, and we talked about this earlier this season.
And the point guard.
When OG was being highlighted, we're like, well, why is OG orchestrating the offense? You do that when the coach don't know what the hell he's doing. You don't focus in on and OG is fantastic. I have no complaints about OG Anunoby. I'm like, this dude,
it's his best year ever.
This dude, he's having his absolute best season period.
Yeah.
He might be one of the best Knicks. After Brunson and Towns, and sometimes it's been OG. So it's been OG's team.
I would say for sure he's their third best player. I wouldn't even argue.
Best player.
It's
not even debatable.
He's been a friggin' beast. But then you got McCall, and the answer, to be honest, and Joe brought this up a couple of shows ago, the answer is to put McCall on the bench and not start him and use him in the second unit. That would be the real answer for a real coach. However, being the picks they gave up and the amount of cachet, with that trade, now all of a sudden they can't even make that move. Because then you're essentially saying you made a mistake, and now with that confidence, you're going to put him on the bench. But that would be the ideal answer, is to make him an ultimate sixth man and work with the second unit with Shamet and Campaign. They played together in Phoenix. It would work. It would work until he gets his head right, but you got to be careful.
Not to bring up another sore point, but maybe if they would have, played the kid they drafted, who's an actual point guard, you could have stole minutes with him playing point in this series. I'm not saying a lot, but you could have put him in the game.
If you developed him during the year, but you can't do that now.
No, that's what I mean. If they would have played him and got him minutes, and but that's another conversation. For another
whole
time.
show of itself.
Yes, that's another show. Which does bring me to the bench. I wanted to talk about the bench, and that's kind of where I was going to go with it. This is what happens when you don't play your bench during the season, and then you want them to play in the playoffs, and they're just not prepared to play. Now, even the guys who were in the rotation, they're not playing big minutes now. So you can't yo-yo and jerk around a rotation during the season, and the playoffs come, you expect guys to perform to that level. I could get on Deuce McBride if I want to. I don't think he's 100% either. I think that hamstring's still bothering him. Takes a while for hamstrings to heal. He's that's an iffy thing with him. So I don't think he's 100% either. But when things aren't going well, can you throw Precious in the game for a bit? I'm not saying he's going to be great, but he's played during the season. Can we give him some minutes? Maybe see what happens.
It's like last night. Like you guys ever played in a playoff game before?
Yeah, he played big minutes last year with all the injuries because he had to.
Yeah.
So this is what in a game like last night. That's what I keep going back to, where your two stars did not have it. They were not good last night at all. You have to try and find ways, find combinations, get players in there. Maybe with Brunson and Towns not in the game, there would be more ball movement. You can give it to Bridges and say, okay, we're going to let you go. You're our scorer now. You're the guy we're going to. Take shots. You can do things like that if you had guys comfortable playing all season and then you kept the rotation in the playoffs. I don't even know what to say. I have benched because that's essentially what the bench has been. Yeah. He's benched his bench. That's essentially what he's done. Oh, and the only guy who's really getting consistent high-level minutes is Mitch. That's it.
And what happened to Shamet? When we saw Shamet,
he was shooting well at the end of the season.
Closing out the season, I think all of us had our fake binoculars on saying, oh, I could see him getting some minutes, because the one thing the Knicks do need is bench production. He's a plus defender. It's not like he's out there and he can't defend. Yeah. He is everything you want from a bench player. The tenacity, the ability to shoot. He can bounce off the dribble. he might be a good guy to actually bring in and pair with Brunson in the backcourt because he can play point a little bit. He gives you a different aspect. So when you're looking at a guy like him coming into the postseason, you're like, well, he's locked and loaded. I'm expecting him to get some minutes. And no offense to Deuce McBride, but he is probably injured. He had a good game last night, but I would have given those minutes to Shamet as soon as he got off the airplane in the playoffs because he's been playing better than Deuce towards the end of the season. And I mean, there's a question if he's not better than Deuce. No offense to Deuce, but we're talking about playoffs and what you can add. He's a bigger guard. He has the shooting skill. I think his career is like 37% from three. You mean to tell me you can't use that? You can't use that off the bounce dude like him? Absolutely you can. But this coach goes and says, and don't get me wrong, Josh Hart, I love him to death. Love Brunson to death. These guys are not guys you dislike. It's just you dislike how overused they are in times where you know that there's different answers you can go to on that bench to probably give you what you need to win the game.
And Josh is not always the right tool for any given situation.
No, he's definitely not. And I love him.
He was good last
night.
night.
Talk bad about him because
he was good last night.
What's that you said?
He was good last night, and he shot the ball surprisingly well for the series.
Yeah.
I mean, but still.
Josh at center. Play the five. Gonna get darn. Play the five, Josh. I mean, it's like literally.
Josh is great when you need a spark.
Josh Horford. That's literally how he would use him. It's like it's disgusting work with Thibodeau. He's just a disgusting coach.
The thing you brought up about Shamet was really true also because defensively he's a bigger defender, which is really important. Deuce is a very good defender, but Deuce is playing off the ball at 6'1" in defending folks.
Yeah,
Shamet is a taller defender. So you talk about three-point defense, which is something we're abysmal at.
Mm-hmm.
Height matters in three-point defenses, especially when you're patrolling the perimeter. It absolutely matters. People could shoot over Deuce.
They have. They've been killing. He's been getting murked. And part of the issue that, like when we lost Dante, and I learned about Shamet coming in, I told John was like, we can't replace Deuce. Who's this Shamet guy? John is. So I'm like, look, it's like you might want to check his career. I was like, Shamet's a very good basketball player. He's not whack. I was like, he could give you a lot of what Dante. I mean, obviously he dislocated the shoulder. That kind of stopped his progression. He's now rounding off into better shape. He looks like the guy I've been used to watching. But go check that guy's highlight package. And you tell me you can use a lot of what he brings to the table on this team because he could be that off-ball handler. He could be. He definitely shoots the ball with great consistency without hesitation. He can defend the perimeter. All the things you would think a Tom Thibodeau guy would want in a player. And Landry Shamet's all of that. And he's tough as freaking nails. It's not like he's some punk out there getting rolled. He's not going to get rolled over. So what is the obsession with just saying, no, there's a staunch pecking order because these other guys aren't qualified? Precious Achiuwa is not qualified? You mean to tell me Precious Achiuwa is a terrible player now?
DeLon Wright played during the season when Brunson was hurt.
Played well too.
Yeah.
Defense.
Can't get no minutes.
Handle the ball.
And you're watching weird also because the more you keep guys on the floor, the more likely that they're going to get injured. See, that's the whole thing about it. And you're watching that with Brunson. He tripped over a plank of wood on the Madison Square Garden floor. That's how he shifted his ankle last night. And it's like, once again, I'll let you lead this, Eric. Once again,
we talked about this.
No, I was gonna say you gave a great segue to this because this is where I want to go next. Brunson, as you brought up, has been hurt. We know with the ankle before the playoffs, he hurt at the end of the season. Obviously, it's still not 100% because I feel like every time he does a weird movement on it, he tweaks it and he looks hurt again.
Yeah.
It did look like something was up with the court. I saw that video and I was like, wow, that's okay. That was weird too. But then Hart gets hurt as well, at the end of the game last night. And like we've been talking, this rolls into everything we've been saying. So now who knows? Who knows how good they're going to be next game? You might need to rely on the bench again. And you're going to be asking guys to play now who haven't been playing. And, we saw this last year with Alec Burks. He's a perfect example. It took him so long to get going, and then he finally did, and he was great in the Indiana series. But these guys need to play. If you're going to ask, if you need them to play, they should be playing. And yeah, I mean, it was a perfect segue because I did want to go next with the injuries. So they're hitting again. Like I said, we have Brunson, we know is hurt. Hart now banged up. I haven't heard about their status for tomorrow. Of course, they're probably going to play. I can't imagine that they don't. But, these are the things that derail seasons. And it's happening again. So even if they win, who knows?
They get murked on it in a second. It's like kind of weird when you think about it. You would look, and then this becomes a tone-deaf thing about the coach. I mean, we're going to talk about the coach all the time because it is a tone-deaf thing. And I think Joe brought it up the time when Towns had the knee issue, and he kept Towns in the game, allowed him to come back in the game. Well, it's like, dude, your best player right now of how you use him is Jalen Brunson. He's the identity and the center of what all the Knicks do right now. This guy has been having these ankle injuries, and he's been masterful with coming back. He just showed a toughness that you can just appreciate and love. And he's come back, and they have that meme up now where it looks like he goes in and he switches ankles when he gets brought into the room because he looks like he's like a robot, like they're just switching out parts, and he's just good. But what we learn about life, how many times can you only got a certain amount of falls, you got about a certain amount of times you can do stuff until it's no longer available. And especially when you start aging, those injuries pile up. How many times are you going to allow this guy to have to go back into the locker room and you're not offering him any sort of rest for what he's going through physically? Because once there's going to come a point, which we might see tomorrow, where his body just said, that's enough. I can't do anymore. And that's when you're running the risk of when you don't cultivate and culture the back end of your bench, to have guys like Campaign, to have guys like Shamet come in and say, we're going to limit Brunson a little bit tonight. Come in and give him the minutes, because that would have helped last night. That would have helped if they could have given those guys some minutes to kind of just give him a break on the floor, knowing that he came off a serious tweaking of his ankle the game before. He just toughed it out. But Eric said earlier, what happens? Things tighten up overnight. He had 2 days to think about it. 2 days on a sore ankle makes that damn thing more sore. It's not going to sit there and feel better. So it was just a disservice to not even think about extending the bench just to give this guy a break and not expect to be heroic all the time.
This is, for those of you who've been watching the show for the last couple episodes, this is also something we delved into quite a bit. Ty and I had a conversation on this. I know Eric also has played competitive sports too. When you're tired, it affects how you plant. When you're overused, it affects how you land. It affects how you pivot. It affects how you plant. It affects all of those things. Mm-hmm. So these are how ankles go. So, I mean, we're not even going to get into the overuse during the season thing. But particularly now, when he's on such a bulky ankle, you can't march him out there for 43 minutes. He's not running effectively. He's not running with a good gait. He's going to get tired. Again, this is shooting yourself in the foot. This is the stuff we've been complaining about all season with not having a dependable bench. And Eric's right. You can't just dust these guys off and throw them in and expect high caliber basketball play. It's just not realistic. So the ultimate, like, DEFCON 1 is he can't play on that ankle anymore. Because, I mean, I've seen him turn the ankles, and I've turned many in ankles. They're horrible. And you see guys like Dante several times last year turn that same ankle over and over and over again. I mean, rolled it to the ground, and you could tough that through to a point, and then you can't do it. And that is DEFCON 1 for this series. If that happens, they are losing. Absolutely losing this series. If Brunson can't suit up.
I think we're at least at half of DEFCON, because I think after last night, watching how Brunson was bent over, like there's certain players that you're like, all right, he's okay. it's bad, but he's okay because he's shown that resiliency. But then there's those ones where you saw like last night, like he trotted to that scorer's table. But I think if you had to put a gun to his head, he would have probably told you he wanted to sit. But he just wasn't going to do it because he was in a bad way. Josh, I think, got the wind knocked out of him. I think that was really what it is. He's a nut job. I don't think he's going to be affected by any of this.
It was an ugly fall.
Yeah, it was an ugly fall. He's that dude. He's going to get up. Whereas when I look at Brunson, I'm like, he looks like he's beat the hell up. But he's just toughing it out. But if he comes out great tomorrow, I mean, kudos to the Knicks staff if they can get him ready for tomorrow. But I feel like the Knicks season may have just changed last night due to that one injury that he suffered that was a non-contact injury, just something he did to himself.
I still think they'll win the series, though. Again, I don't see them losing 3 in a row, even if Brunson goes down. So I can kind of backtrack on that. But in all honesty, the worst I saw his ankle, I believe, is that fourth quarter in Game 4 where he came back and he was just spectacular, operating on adrenaline and pain, basically.
Yeah,
that was the ugliest I think I've seen that ankle. But
it was kind of reminiscent of what last year against Indiana, the game that OG hurt his hamstring and then Brunson got hurt and he had that huge, and when he came back in, he had that huge end of game and the Knicks wound up winning. Mm-hmm. That's what Game 4 reminded me of this year. Like it kind of was a repeat of that game. Yeah. But yeah, I mean, that's why I say you guys are way more confident in what they can do because if they don't win tomorrow night, I know that was Game 7 at home. I think it's over. I think they're losing in Game 7, and I think they're gonna go out in the first round, and we're gonna have all these conversations. And I know what I told you, what Alan Hahn said, but it's one thing to say it before it happens, and then after it happens, I think Dolan is going to be the one to be like, all right, what the hell is going on? That's what I think. Yeah.
I wanted to revisit that because when we talked about it earlier, I recall listening to Ian Begley. Ian Begley, who's more tapped in, no offense to Allen, but I think he's just really more tapped in. He was the one that put out the idea that this first round, if it's non-competitive or if there's an issue, well, a first round exit's going to get some serious odds on Thibodeau. And even going to the second round, if they get mollywhopped by Boston, not even competitive. You're mollywhopped by Boston. Well, if you get mollywhopped by Boston, they believe that this is going to actually do something different with the front office. Now, could that be both a Leon Rose and a Tom Thibodeau unison exit? Well, maybe so, because we've heard those stories about that. So I don't think that Tom Thibodeau's job is as secure as maybe Allen, because Allen wants to believe the whole Tom Thibodeau era. He talks about it with the fervor of, we're 90s basketball. Dude, we ain't in 90s basketball anymore. This is 2020 basketball, and it's a whole different league to the point where some of us are nauseous watching it, including myself sometimes, because this does not resemble the basketball like we grew up watching. It's also a mockery of a lot of the stuff that we're so used to. The Pistons and Knick game kind of bring you back to those moments of the physicality, and even like the Golden State game. You like the little bit.
Seen hand checks that have not been called.
It does bring you back, but then you look at the box score, you see how many 3-point shots were taken, then you're like, we're in 2025.
This is a really good point.
It's the night when you get ugly, but the chances of this continuing, that it's still offense. And if you're not an offensive-minded coach, which this guy's definitely not, he's saying go throw the ball out and do what you need to do. The Knicks have some heavy investments. And as much as I know Eric probably like, get this guy maybe the hell out of here and get some assets for him, Mikal Bridges is the key to all this. Because
he has been since they made the trade.
Because Tom Thibodeau's life, I think, in my opinion, relies on how good that dude looks. Because right now the Knicks have went all in on this team. This team is an all-in team. The Knicks are Knicks fans. If there's another move, this is their all-in move. Yeah. And if you come out of an all-in move out of the first round, and the
I'd
team
say
that you
Leon
are
Rose's
able to
ass.
beat or be competitive with, you get, like I said, mollywopped is a favorite word. So you get mollywopped in the second round to the team that you built to compete against.
That's basically what they did.
Somebody's arse is on the line because it's either the front office, Leon's decision making, because he went all in on this guy that they believe was going to be the huge difference maker. I think we all felt like he might have been a missing piece to the team last year without McCall. I mean, I'm sorry, without Cat. We felt like, oh, bring Bridges in. He can help get you over the hump on what you dealt with in Indiana and falling short. But now you're saying, no, we're going to bring Karl-Anthony Towns. We're going to bring this dude. We're all in. And like Joe said, it fit underneath the cap. This is a perfectly aligned team when you think financially that it's put together well. Now you got to figure out if you're going to extend this dude.
Philosophy, right? Like, because we've talked about the philosophy, right? Like, they got those two guys to play defense on the wings, so that's why you could trade for a Karl-Anthony Towns, because in theory, they should be locking out the guys on the perimeter, and his anchoring the defense wouldn't hurt you as much, right? That's the theory that you would have, and they built this team totally for Thibodeau. They traded Barrett and Quickly, two of their best young players, to get OG. Then they trade essentially their future with all the draft picks to get Bridges for what he wants to do, for the style he likes to play. And if it doesn't work, yes, it's not only on Tibbs, it's on Leon too, because Leon is the one who defends him all the time. So, yeah, I totally agree with that. I mean, like I said, Allen swears they're not doing anything, but that's probably Leon Rose. If Dolan comes in and says, look, I gave you everything you wanted, and now we're regressing. Now
but do you think he's going to pull that trigger after 1 year of that team together?
No, but Joe, they were the favorite team last year against the Pacers, and they lost in a Game 7 at home.
No. What I'm saying is this incarnation of this team, this is this year. If it doesn't
but I'm talking about the coaching, his tenure. I'm talking about his tenure here.
I'm thinking more front office, like Leon.
I just think that there's going to be an uproar in New York.
The fans are going to go crazy. That's a given.
If they get bounced by Detroit, which I think is 50-50, you don't know, because you're dealing with unknown injuries, and then how they respond to, losing the other night. This game is all mental more than it is physical for these guys. They get ousted. And if it's in a way that looks like they didn't know what the hell they were doing, I don't know how you could ever bring him back. Because when you go into the second round, we're expecting that we know Boston has more savvy talent than the champs. We get it. But you got to also just do the totality of this whole year and the playoffs. We've not been competitive against the teams we were built to beat.
0-11.
So you're looking at that 0-11. Like I said, only people that count losses and going to finals and losing is LeBron's team. So anybody else who calculates a 0-11 record will go, well, damn, we weren't even in the game. That's a loser. That's a LL Cool J. James Todd Smith, that's 2 L's. That's a LL. That's a double L. So when you look at that and then you go into the postseason and a team inferior in Detroit, because Detroit is not the Knicks, if you lose to a team that you're more talented in and you're more experienced in, and you got a coach that you beat last year because he was in Cleveland, you're not telling me that the Detroit Pistons should be in the same. The 3-1 made sense initially because you're like, the Knicks are a better team. They should be beating Detroit like all crazy.
They're more talented, yes.
So with Cleveland, they killed Miami because it's like they're the better team. They're supposed to come in and annihilate them. If this goes to 6, then to 7 games, and then you go to Boston and you get swept, which could happen. You can get swept.
It happen, sure.
Definitely.
It can happen. So you get swept. This is not a successful season or investment. When you think about if you're James Dolan, you're looking at that team and go, I mean, but this garbage, I could have kept Dante and Julius and lost in the second round. I could have kept that. I didn't have to look at this heavy price tag player. I mean, and we know when you look at the team from last year to prior, Cat clearly an upgrade. It's not even like, no offense to Julius, and Julius is playing great. It's an upgrade. It's a huge upgrade for this team. That dude's magnificent when you watch him play. So we know that that's an improvement. Macau, we would believe, should be better than Dante DiVincenzo. On paper, he is. He's not playing game. He's not. But on paper, this is an upgrade.
Yeah.
So where did we lose at? And now you're going to regress and get out in the first round. I think his goose is cooked if they go in the first round.
It is, yes. Obviously, you will cross that bridge when we get to it. But like I said, going into last night, I felt a certain way. And then even just watching the first quarter, I was like, this game's going to be close. I said it to myself. It's going to be a close game.
Yeah, you mentioned it too.
All the games have been close, so that wasn't a huge surprise. But the way it happened, like the way the game unfolded and watching it happen and knowing Brunson and Towns weren't playing well. And then shout out to OG, man. He was fantastic. He kept them in the game. Robinson was fantastic, man. Best game since he's been back. But then you're missing 11 free throws. Luckily, Detroit missed 10 themselves. But like every single thing that happened, I'm watching the game. I'm like, this is what's been their season. Like this is exactly what has happened every game this year. There was no difference.
I was so mad at you, and I'm not, I love you, but I was
we didn't even talk about.
I said this bastard's right because at one point Eric said something, and I was like, damn.
We haven't even talked about them feeding Mitch the ball all game.
Yeah, well, Eric said,
what did I say?
Eric said this is the typical game, and I was so mad. I was like, this bastard's so right. Eric says this is one of those games where they're gonna play enough, but they're just gonna lose in the end. And I'm like, damn, he's so right. And it was like in the third quarter, he said, and my whole time watching on the couch, I'm like, that bastard from Japan is so right, because I was like, they're gonna lose this damn game. Because me and him obviously think a lot of like in our takes. I was like, he is so right there about to lose this damn game in the fourth.
You could just tell they were gonna do just enough to lose. Like that's what it was gonna be. Like normally you say just enough to win, but I said no, they're gonna do just enough to lose this game. The free throws, that's the big one, right? Detroit missed 10, but then the Knicks missed 11. I'm like, come on, like what's going on here? Joe, to your point, yes. Mitch Robinson up here passes, good. Mitch Robinson down here passes, not good.
You could say the turnovers to Mitch were the difference in the game.
It was.
Yes, because they had some momentum at that time. Yes, you're correct.
Was it 3-4 turnovers with trying to feed the ball into Mitch?
It was 3 after the successful lob they threw him. Then they tried to get him the ball 3 more times. The last one, I don't know what Anunoby was thinking. He's under the basket. He like throws him this bullet pass. I'm like, he's not catching that. What are you doing? He's not catching that.
The playground. The phrase you brought up earlier, that was playground basketball. Like,
it was. It totally was.
Yeah. Wedging it in places that you couldn't see the passing lane. There was no vision where Mitch, knowing Mitch, I mean, granted, if we were on the playground, we would throw it to him too. He's the tallest guy. So you're like, oh, let's get him the ball. But it's like, these are times where Brunson, when you find him in that little pocket corner and you find him doing the same thing that he lost against Miami doing, because he got so wedged in and then he tried to slip a pass in that just wasn't there when he had Josh at the top of the key. When you think about the Miami game where the Knicks lost in that game 6, the same way they lost last night, there was some not on that one particular play, but Brunson over-penetrating and then trying to get a pass that was never there in the first place. Because Mitch is not the guy. Why wasn't Karl Towns getting those easy looks or underneath the basket where he has better hands?
That's the other thing, man. I mean, I could hit the way they use him. I could talk about for hours because it makes zero sense to me. I understand he's a good 3-point shooter, arguably the best 3-point shooting big man, not named Dirk Nowitzki, we've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
But he's also very, very good down low. So can we get him the ball there, please, a little bit? Is that such a hard thing to do? Man, I don't know. I can't. But we do have a game. We do have a game 6 to worry about tomorrow night. in Detroit. I'm not going to lie. I was kind of looking at ticket prices and thinking about going to Detroit tomorrow to go to the game. But then I said to myself, what the hell are you doing this for? And then I said, no, I'm not going to do it. So I'll be home like everyone else watching the game. But
be miserable in your own house.
hmm?
Be miserable in your own house, not in Detroit.
Yeah, why should I pay money, get a flight, go to the game, and then if they lose, oh God, be so depressed. I would have been so depressed.
And the cocktails are much cheaper at home.
That's true. Cocktails are cheaper at home.
Imagine you get robbed going to Detroit to watch the Knicks get robbed. You know
that would be my luck. That's probably what would have happened. I would have.
I ain't got no damn money anyway.
All right, let's shut this one down, guys. You guys have any closing thoughts about tomorrow night?
Knicks in 6. I'm sticking with it.
Score prediction? Do you have a prediction? Score, close, blowout? What do you think, Joe?
I'm thinking 111, 106.
Okay. Wow, he's gonna score over 100 points. I don't see that happening, but okay. Not in this series. Ty, you have any read on tomorrow?
Pain. Club of Lang.
Yep.
Because I have no. I don't even want to. I don't have a clue. I don't even know about tomorrow.
I'll know a lot. I think the first. No. I'm not going to say that. The first 5 minutes of the third quarter will tell me all I need to know about tomorrow. Whatever the score is at halftime is going to be the score. But the first 5 minutes of the third quarter, I will know all I need to know about what the type of game how the outcome is going to go.
If Brunson was an injured, I'd be a little bit more confident. But I don't know. I don't know what his.
No idea how effective he's going to be.
It's hard to figure out. You don't know what he's going to be like coming in.
And if he's hurt the least little bit tomorrow, I don't like our chances.
We should still be able to beat this team without Brunson.
Oh, I agree.
Joe, I hear you saying that all show. I still have no idea why you think that way. I do not. After everything we've seen, I have no idea how you think.
We have enough talent to beat that team. That team is
on paper. Yes, we do on paper.
I agree.
But if that's the case, it should have been over already. On paper, the series should be over.
Yeah.
Right. So
I don't see the serious player other than Brunson. See, that's my issue with the Knicks. I don't see the other dude that's like, frig that. We're going to win this game. I don't see that other dude on the Knicks because
you got two wings that could step up, and they have during the season. They've had games where both of those wings have stepped up in the absence of one of those players, and I think that can happen. I think you can have both of your wings take more of an offensive load, have Towns have a good game, and I think they can beat that team.
If Brunson doesn't play, Towns needs to get at least 25 shots. I'm not even lying.
Well, the offense
Brunson does not play the game.
But you need your wings involved offensively. Both of those guys can drop 20-plus points on any given night.
But Bridges is playing more like a drumstick than a wing.
Like, I know, but this may be
like a drum. What did you say?
What did he
play more like a drumstick?
Be more effective. The fourth option for him in an offense is not good for him. The dude floats. He floats as a fourth option.
I agree with what you're saying. They're capable of play. Yes, they are capable for sure. I just don't know what makes you think from what you've seen so far that we're going to get that. OG will probably do whatever he can. Yeah. But I don't see it from Bridges. I just don't. He is completely gone mentally.
If Charlie Bucket could get a golden ticket, the Knicks can win without Brunson.
I question.
They can.
I just don't know who the other leader once he's off the floor. Because to command the team is the issue with the Knicks. Because Brunson commands the team kind of for Brunson. He's Allen Iverson. He's just more efficient. So it works for him as the alpha leader when he's got the ball. And
there is no alpha leader even with Brunson in. That's one
of the problems. But that's what I'm saying. If he goes out, his style of play allows him to be the leader on the floor because he's not going to turn the ball over a lot. But we're talking about who once Brunson is out the game, you're asking someone to come in and be the orchestrator of that whole entire team. I don't see
well, unfortunately, it's Josh Hart, and
yeah, well, that's and would you trust that? I would never.
no, I don't. That's
going to tell them what they need to do. They're not going to need an orchestrator. The game's going to
the game. That's right. The game is their point guard. That's what it is. The game.
The game tells you what to do.
That's your
all right, guys. On that note, we're gonna close this show down. Let's hope. I mean, I know I don't have confidence, but I'm hoping the Knicks win tomorrow. Hoping they win in Game 6, because I'm telling you right now, if they lose tomorrow, they will lose Game 7 at home. It will be an epic collapse. Bob Greenberg, who's a friend, he says he thinks they'll win. I hope so, but I don't see it. And we will be back next week talking about a collapse and all the things that we didn't want to talk about until June. We will be talking about in early May. So
I'd be shocked if they lost 3 in a row against this team.
I would be shocked too, but
I would be shocked.
I see it happening. I don't know why. I
hope you're wrong.
I'm not shocked because I don't know what this team is. If they had something that they relied on, and I know they can fall back on,
they do. Jalen Brunson in the fourth quarter. That's what they. That's essentially what it is.
That's their identity. Is they go as Brunson goes, and if he
get to the fourth quarter and he'll take you home. That's essentially what their philosophy is. That's what it is.
Yeah, no, you're accurate.
Yeah, they don't have any other way to go. So, all right, everybody. Thanks for watching. For Ty and Joe, I'm Eric. You're watching All Nicked Up. Let's go Knicks. See you next week.